Okay, this is assignment number 2 for this week, April 27th through May 1st. Remember, 3 p.m. is the due time for on Friday, May 1st, but try to get it done before Friday if you can. So here's a couple example problems, but we're going to skip by those. And I'm going to do these 4 problems with you, and then you guys are going to finish these 8 problems. This page is really quick and easy. And then the back of this page looks like this, and I'm going to do these 3 with you, and you guys will do these 6. So this will be your assignment number 2. So this first side of the worksheet, we can solve these equations without graphing. We can solve them by square rooting both sides of the equation. And let's kind of just review what square root means. So for example, the square root of 25, like think what times what equals 25? And I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking the answer is 5, and it is, but the answer is also negative 5. Because if you take negative 5 and you square it, that means negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, and 5 times 5 is also 25. So the answers are going to be 5 and negative 5. Here's a shortcut way you can write that. You can put a plus minus sign in front of the number 5 if you want. And you'll see that kind of in this example problem up here. So to get started with number 2, our goal is we want to get n by itself. We want to solve for n. So the first thing that we can do is we can divide both sides by 16. So you can use a calculator and do 48 divided by 16, and you get the number 3. So we still have n squared equals 3. So to solve a problem like this, to get rid of the squared, you do square root. So we're going to take the square root of 3. Just like up here, I talked about the square root of 25. Now, when you do the square root of 3 on your calculator, and if you don't have a calculator, Desmos does regular math too. So if you just go to Desmos and you click in an empty spot, and then if you go down here, you can do the square root button and the number 3. And the equals 1.73. I'm just going to have you guys round to the nearest tenth, so 1.73. Now remember, you want to include the positive and the negative. Grab my pencil. Here we go. So the answer to the square root of 3, you can write n equals positive negative 1.7. And that's your answer. And if you guys want to circle your answer, you can. Number 3 and number 1, those are ready to square root. So all you have to do is square root both sides and write your answer. Okay? And same with number 1. You don't have to do like any division first. Number 5, we need to divide first. So I'm going to divide by 9. So x squared equals 1. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. And x, the square root of 1 is just 1. But remember, we want to include positive 1 and negative 1. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more challenging because you have some extra information inside of your parentheses. So this squared, we still can get rid of it by square rooting both sides. Okay, so this, instead of 4x plus 3 squared, this square root gets rid of the squared. So that just becomes 4x plus 3. But here's the problem. That could equal positive or negative 5. So really the only way to solve this problem is you have to solve it twice. So we'd say 4x plus 3 could be positive 5, or 4x plus 3 could be negative 5. And then you have to solve them both, and we're going to get 2 totally different answers. So we're going to subtract 3, 4x equals 2, and then we're going to divide by 4. What's 2 divided by 4? That's 0.5. So that's one of our answers. Here I'm going to subtract 3. 4x equals negative 8. And then I'm going to divide by 4. X equals negative 2. So now your 2 answers are 0.5 and negative 2. All right, we're going to square root both sides here. And that's going to become y minus 3 equals, and I'm going to take the square root of 6 on my calculator, and you get positive negative 2.4. So we're going to have to solve both of these. Y minus 3 could be positive 2.4, or y minus 3 might be negative 2.4. And to solve this, we're going to add 3 So 2.4 plus 3 would be 5.4. And here we're going to add 3. Negative 2.4 plus 3 would be 0.6. So there are your two answers. So you guys can, again, you can use notebook paper, and you need to show these 8 problems on your notebook paper using this method. Now on the back of this, we're going to solve by factoring. It's a different way to solve equations, and it's called solve by factoring. So we'll just keep going. Okay, so notice these you can't just like take the square root, because that would only get rid of the y squared, and that would not help with this. And I know you guys remember factoring from the beginning of our online learning. We learned about factoring. So if this is y squared, remember we can do y times y to get y squared. And then if we think of numbers that multiply to 4, you could do 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. Well, we could use 1 times 4 to help us get to negative 5. We would want to use negative 4 and negative 1, because when you do the FOIL method, you get back to where you started. Now, the only difference is we now need to get our answers from this. What this means is this answer could equal 0, or this answer could equal 0. And if you want to solve that in your head, you can, but you can write it like this: y minus 4 equals 0, and solve that. And then you can write y minus 1 equals 0 and solve that. So all you have to do is add 4, y equals 4, and add 1 to this problem, y equals 1. So that is the two places where your parabola, if you graphed it as a parabola, this is where they'd hit. But we are solving by factoring right now and not by just graphing a parabola. Okay, you're going to have a couple of them like this. So number 4 and number 7, where it doesn't say equals 0. So what you want to do is you want to move everything over with x squared. So you're going to have to finish 4 here in a second. But x squared minus x minus 2. And now it says equals 0. And then you can go ahead and factor. So you're going to need to finish that one. So my problem, this 5 needs to come over. So it's going to become x squared minus 4x minus 5. Remember, when it hops over, it becomes negative, equals 0. So parentheses will be x times x. And then this negative 5, and we want to multiply to negative 5. So the only thing that multiplies to 5 is 5 times 1. And we want to make our 5 negative and our 1 positive. Remember, when you FOIL this, we want it to become negative 4 in the middle. So we're going to set this parenthesis equal to 0, and we're going to set this parenthesis equal to 0, and we're going to solve them both. Add 5, x equals 5, subtract 1, x equals negative 1. And there's your answer. Okay, number 8. This one's kind of weird, but it's going to be similar to 7. I'll help you guys with 7 also, okay? So we have 1/64 x squared minus 49 equals 0. So to solve this problem, maybe you guys remember doing a difference of 2 squared. 1/64 looks kind of weird, but think what happens if you take 1/8 times 1/8. So 8 times 8 is 64, right? And then what perfect number, this is a perfect square, right? 7 times 7 is 49. So 7 times 7 like this, and we want 1 positive and 1 negative. So I know we've learned that before, and again, I'm going to help you with 7, and I'll help you with 9 also. All you guys want to do is write your final answer. So we're going to set the first parenthesis equal to 0, and the second parenthesis equal to 0. So to solve this, I'm going to subtract 7. 1/8 x equals negative 7. And then to get rid of 1/8, all you have to do is multiply by 8. Multiply by 8. X equals negative 56. Here I'm going to add 7. Multiply by 8. And I get positive 56. So I'm going to help you with 7 and 9, but you're going to have to finish them. So first I'm going to bring the 25y over. 16y to the third minus 25y equals 0. This y and this y is a little bit extra, isn't it? So we're going to, you know what? I'm not going to make you guys do 7. You don't have to do 7. Hopefully, that shows me who's watching the video who's going to do 7. Okay, number 9, we will factor out of 4a. So we're going to write a squared minus 16 equals 0. If you would go back and remember distribute, you get 4a to the third minus 64a. Now this 4a drops down, and then we're going to write a times a, like this. And what times what equals 16? Like 2 times 8, 1 times 16, but you want to use 4 and 4 here and here with a plus and a minus. So a plus 4 here, a minus 4 here, and then you're going to actually get 3 answers. This first answer is just going to be a equals 0, but you guys need to finish these 2 answers. Please email me if you guys need any help, but really what you need to finish are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems here, and then the 8 problems here, and submit a picture.